Welcome to Conspiracist.
Hello.
Today we're doing a deep dive into an idea that it doesn't seem to go away.
Right.
This hypothesis that governments, maybe all around the world, have been deliberately hiding proof, evidence, about these alleged galactic federations.
Yeah, it's a big claim. Our goal here is really to look at it objectively, evaluate the arguments, the reasoning.
Exactly. No dismissal, no jokes, just what's the basis for these claims? We're drawing on different kinds of sources, personal accounts, some government-related info that's out there, expert opinions.
And to frame it, we're looking at claims suggesting not just contact, but actual, ongoing relationships with these entities.
In a concerted effort to keep it all under wraps.
Precisely. Why would they do that? What are the supposed reasons? And what information actually supports or, contradicts this whole idea? That's what we'll explore.
Okay, so let's jump right in. The core claims, contact intervention. A really significant one comes from Haim Eshed.
Right, the former head of Israel's space security program. His comments, mostly from a book by Hagar Yanai, definitely stirred the pot.
He reportedly said the U.S. government has been talking to a, quote, Galactic Federation for a long time.
And it's not just talk, according to the claims. It's the nature of the interaction that's particularly striking.
Yeah, he's quoted saying this federation has actually intervened, stepped in to stop nuclear catastrophes.
The book apparently mentions the Bay of Pigs invasion as one example, where they supposedly prevented things from escalating.
Which implies, way more than just passive observation. It's just active involvement.
It does, and it immediately raises the question, why would a high-ranking former official say something like this? What's behind it?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And predictably, it sparked a lot of debate.
Understandably so.
Someone like Nick Pope, who's investigated UFOs for years, he weighed in. Question the credibility. Where did Eshed get this information?
Was it reliable? Pope suggested possibilities like maybe it was a joke taken out of context, maybe a publicity thing for the book.
And this is the other possibility. Maybe it was a genuine leak, someone breaking ranks.
Exactly. And that highlights the core problem with assessing claims like these from people in sensitive roles.
How do you even verify it?
Right. They might have access to incredible information, but proving it, near impossible. It's all classified, potentially compartmentalized.
Plus, you have to consider the timing, right? When these things come out, often seems to line up with book deals or media appearances. It makes you wonder.
It's a factor you can't ignore. Got to maintain that critical perspective.
Okay, so putting Eshed's specific claims aside for a moment. What about the general online discussion? This idea isn't new.
No, not at all. On places like Reddit, in the UFO communities, people constantly debate the whole concept of a galactic federation. Is it plausible? What would its purpose even be?
Some users seem to think it's almost like a logical necessity.
How so?
Well, the argument goes, if there are multiple spacefaring civilizations out there, how do they coexist peacefully? You need some kind of framework, right?
Right.
Rules of engagement.
Like an interstellar governing body, a United Planets sort of thing.
Yeah, basically. To manage relations, avoid conflicts between vastly different species, it's a common sci-fi trope, but some people see real logic there.
It follows a certain logic, extrapolating from our own global challenges. Communication, diplomacy, setting norms.
Yeah.
It makes sense in theory.
Then there's another angle from those discussions. Maybe the Federation's job is protection.
Protecting who? From what?
Protecting planets like Earth, potentially less advanced ones, from more hostile alien races.
Ah, so a kind of cosmic police force or maybe a shield?
Right. Which adds another layer to the secrecy idea. If they're protecting us, maybe revealing that presence would be strategically unwise.
Potentially. It could provoke the very threat they're guarding against. Or maybe it could lead to us becoming too dependent, not developing our own capabilities. Secrecy, in that light, could be argued as a strategic necessity.
It's a complicated thought. And tied into that is this recurring theme of, are we ready? Is humanity ready for this?
That comes up a lot. One comment online suggested a planet needs to reach a certain level of, say, unity or advancement before it can join.
And that maybe our own internal conflicts, our wars and divisions are holding us back, a barrier to entry.
Exactly. And that feeds directly into the concealment hypothesis, the idea that governments know, but they think we can't handle it.
They fear mass panic, social chaos, anarchy if the truth came out.
So withholding the information becomes this kind of paternalistic act, protecting society from a shock it's supposedly unprepared for.
While we're on online sources, some users mention specific books too. like Alina Danayan's A Gift from the Stars.
Yes, that came up. Allegedly providing details on a galactic federation of worlds and their role in helping humanity evolve, spiritually even.
So how do we approach sources like that in our evaluation, trying to stay objective?
It's crucial to differentiate. Sources based on personal experience, channeling, or similar methods are very different from, say, leaked documents or scientific data.
The part of the conversation, part of the spectrum of belief.
Absolutely. They tell us what some people believe and why, but they generally lack that independent verification you need for empirical evidence. Their value is more in understanding the phenomenon of belief itself.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly and focus more directly on the motivations for concealment, assuming for argument's sake that contact has happened.
Right. Why would governments hide something so monumental?
The fear of public panic, we just mentioned as a big one, pops up everywhere in these discussions.
The idea that revealing extraterrestrial contact would just shatter worldviews, undermine religions, cause global chaos.
Is there much historical basis for that level of collapse after a major discovery?
Well, history shows societies adapt to huge paradigm shifts, like finding new continents or understanding heliocentrism. But complete collapse from one piece of information, it's debatable. Still, the potential psychological impact of knowing we're not alone, that's undeniably huge, and governments would likely weigh that heavily.
Another suggested motive is less about protecting us and more about power and profit.
Ah, yes. The idea that a select few might know, and they're using that knowledge, maybe advanced technology gained from contact for their own benefit.
Wealth, control, maintaining an edge over everyone else.
If that were happening, how could it possibly stay secret?
Well, proponents would argue.
Yeah.
Extreme compartmentalization, need to know basis cranked up to 11, control over resources, maybe influence over media.
And the advanced tech itself could provide the means to enforce that secrecy, a powerful advantage.
There's also an interesting point about how governments frame things like UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena.
You mean focusing on the threat aspect?
Exactly. Discussions involving people like Nick Pope have noted how programs like the Advanced Aerial Threat Identification Program, the name itself tells you something.
The argument being that framing it as a threat helps secure funding, gets lawmakers engaged.
While also potentially steering the public away from thinking about, say, peaceful contact or cooperation. It conditions us to see it as dangerous.
Which, conveniently perhaps, justifies keeping things classified under national security.
And we even have documented examples of managing perception, right? Like that Navy briefing card from 2020.
Telling personnel not to use the term UFO specifically because it's tied to aliens and media-generated hysteria.
They wanted personnel to use UAP instead. What does that shift in language tell us?
It suggests a very deliberate effort to control the narrative, to de-emphasize the ET connection, manage public reaction, and keep the conversation within certain less alarming bounds.
Okay, so those are some of the arguments for why concealment might happen. But now, let's look at the other side. The arguments against intentional concealment, or even against the existence of this federation as described.
And there are quite a few significant counterarguments.
A big one, again voiced by Nick Pope, is just the sheer logistics of keeping a secret that big.
Especially over decades, across different administrations.
He argues that something like contact with the Galactic Federation would absolutely have national security implications, meaning every U.S. president would have to be briefed.
And keeping every president, plus countless officials, military personnel, scientists, completely silent for decades in a democracy, with changing leadership, oversight committees, leaks. It seems incredibly difficult.
The potential points of failure just multiply over time.
Exactly. The scale of the required conspiracy becomes almost unmanageably vast.
Then there's the fundamental issue that skeptics always raise, the evidence, or lack thereof.
Right. Online, people constantly point out, where is the verifiable physical proof? Photos, videos, documents that stand up to scrutiny, alien materials. It's mostly anecdotal or ambiguous.
And as we touched on earlier, there's the observation that sometimes these big claims seem to pop up conveniently around book releases or monetization efforts.
Which doesn't automatically disprove them, but it does raise flags about motivation and encourages skepticism. How do you balance being open-minded with being critical?
It's tough. You have to demand strong evidence for strong claims, right? Evaluate the source, look for corroboration, be aware of potential biases.
And so far, for a galactic federation interacting with Earth governments, that kind of robust, extraordinary evidence just hasn't materialized publicly.
Psychological research also offers some perspective here.
We mentioned the Goldsmith's research on alien abduction reports and potential links to false memory or fantasy proneness.
Right. It doesn't mean all such accounts are false memories, but it suggests our minds can construct or distort experiences, especially unusual ones.
It means we need to be cautious about taking personal testimony as objective fact without other supporting evidence. Subjective experience is powerful, but it's not the same as empirical proof.
And that Union College study you mentioned, the one about predictors of conspiracy belief.
Yeah, finding links between believing in conspiracies and things like schizotypy, seeing the world as inherently dangerous, and that bullshit receptivity idea, finding meaning in vagueness.
So the implication is that some people might be psychologically predisposed to find a grand, hidden narrative like the Galactic Federation cover-up more plausible, regardless of the evidence.
That's what the research suggests. These theories can offer compelling, comprehensive explanations for things that feel confusing or unexplained, appealing to certain cognitive styles.
Which brings us back to simpler explanations. Someone online invoked Occam's razor.
Choose the simplest explanation that fits the facts.
So instead of aliens and a global conspiracy, maybe UAPs or advanced drones, misidentified natural phenomena, psychological effects, secret military test.
Exactly. Unless you have strong evidence disproving those simpler possibilities, they remain the more logical default, scientifically speaking. You don't need to jump to extraterrestrials immediately.
It seems even people interested in UFOs sometimes struggle with the Galactic Federation idea specifically. Comments like, it just seems too far out, even coming from someone with credentials like Eshed.
The sheer scale of the claim demands a really high bar for evidence. The burden of proof is firmly on those making the claim.
And they need to provide something solid, verifiable, not just stories or interpretations.
Correct. And the evidence presented so far hasn't met that standard for most scientists or investigators.
Even within the UFO community itself, there wasn't universal acceptance of Eshed's claims.
No. As we said, Nick Pope openly questioned it. Joke, stunt, genuine leak. The fact that even UFO investigators debated it shows the lack of clear consensus.
It highlights how difficult it is to sort credible information from noise in this field.
Absolutely. Critical thinking is essential, even for believers.
There's also a more, maybe, cynical or philosophical objection raised online.
Which is?
If there is this powerful, benevolent Galactic Federation out there interacting with us, why do they let all the terrible stuff happen on Earth?
The problem of suffering. Why no intervention for famine, war, disease, injustice, if they have the power and are good?
Right. Their apparent inaction seems inconsistent with the idea of a benevolent, advanced federation looking out for us, or even just enforcing galactic norms. It's a logical sticking point for some.
It raises deep questions about their supposed nature, motivations, or indeed their existence as commonly described.
And this ties into another comparison made online, likening belief in the Federation, especially based on channeled info, to religious belief.
The argument being that both often rely on information received through non-empirical means, revelation, channeling, faith, rather than tangible proof.
Likening channeled messages about federations to inspired religious texts.
It highlights a fundamental difference in epistemology. Science demands testable evidence. Faith systems often rely on different ways of knowing. Neither is inherently wrong, but their standards of proof are very different.
Finally, there was a really interesting scientific point raised by one user about abiogenesis.
The origin of life from non-life.
Yeah. The commenter pointed out we still don't have a clear scientific pathway explaining how basic chemistry becomes complex biology.
It's one of the biggest unanswered questions in science.
And while the users speculated maybe that research is being suppressed too, their main point was this gap in our understanding makes it hard to confidently say the universe is teeming with life.
Exactly. If we don't fully grasp how life starts even once, estimating its frequency elsewhere is hugely speculative.
Which, in turn, impacts how likely vast populated galactic federations are. If life is incredibly rare, then maybe federations are too.
Our current scientific uncertainty about life's origins definitely affects the probability calculations for widespread extraterrestrial civilizations.
Okay, so as we start to wrap up this deep dive into the hypothesis of governments hiding galactic federations, we've covered a lot of ground.
A real mix of claims, counterclaims, motivations, skepticism, drawing from personal stories, interpretations of official actions, online debates, even psychology.
And throughout, we've really tried to stick to an objective evaluation, just looking at the information from the sources we have.
Reflecting on all that, I think it's fair to say that substantiating the core claim, a deliberate global conspiracy to hide proof of a galactic federation, faces some major hurdles.
The anecdotal stuff is out there, the interpretations, but that rigorous, verifiable proof.
It seems to be largely missing. Plus, you have the logistical challenges of such secrecy, the psychological factors influencing belief, the logical questions raised about a federation's actions or inaction. It all fuels the skepticism.
Which leads us to a final thought, really, for you listening. Based on everything we've discussed today, what do you think are the most compelling arguments for the idea of intentional concealment?
And conversely, what are the strongest arguments against it? And perhaps the biggest question, what kind of evidence would actually settle this? What would it take to definitively prove or disprove such an extraordinary claim?
What would that concrete, undeniable proof look like? It's something to ponder.
For now, the question of a galactic federation and whether knowledge of it is being hidden remains very much open, pending that kind of definitive evidence.
Thanks for listening to Conspiracist.